Welcome to Life, Lafter Divorce, episode 89. I am your host, Leanne Linsky.
And I'm the boyfriend.
Hey, welcome back to another wonderful week of
Divorce.
Woohoo! Hey, while you're out there tuning in, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. And hey, why not check out the website at lifelafterdivorce.com. Check out our online store. The holidays are coming up. We have some really good gift ideas for yourself and others.
Yeah, so what are those gift ideas?
Yeah, you know what? For the holidays, what's really fun is our spearmint and peppermint soaps. That's right. We have estrangement.
Nothing says holidays like mint.
That's right. Mint is holiday season. We don't have pumpkin, but we do have mint.
Ooh, I don't think I can shower with pumpkin soap.
I don't think I'd want to smell like a pumpkin.
No.
But I would like to smell minty fresh, right?
Yeah, true. I think everyone does.
And it actually feels good, makes your skin tingle. So check out annulment and estrangement.
Ooh.
Yes, we have them in pink Himalayan salt or goat's milk, just depending on what you want. If you want a little exfoliation or if you want a little lather.
Lather.
So check it out. They're all handcrafted here in Long Beach, California, and they're all fun divorce themes just to keep it interesting.
Perfect.
Yeah. And also, why not check out the life coaching tab on our website and book your free session with me? I'm giving away one free session per person. We do a full hour coaching session. So if there's something on your mind that you need a little jump start on, and some next steps, let's talk.
Yeah, what does that look like? What is that? What do you mean something on my mind and next steps?
Well, let's say you are contemplating a career change, or you're maybe wanting to launch a big project, or maybe you just went through a breakup and you're like, where do I go from here? So any one of those things, basically, I'm here to help you push through your limiting beliefs and get you to the next place that you want to be.
Really? So if I told you I wanted to leave my institutional job and I wanted to go be a park ranger, you would help me?
Yes, I would.
Yes.
Giddy up. Get on that horse.
Fantastic.
So you want to be a park ranger?
For another conversation.
All right. Fair enough. All right, you guys. Well, that went somewhere. So, boyfriend, I'm kind of curious this week do you feel like out of all the people you've dated, that we're all very similar, or do you think they've been completely different each time?
What do you mean? Similar on how they look or similar to their personalities?
Oh, both.
Both.
Looks, I'm just curious about, but I'm really focused on personalities.
Then we'll come back to looks.
Okay.
Personality-wise, you're probably the most different. I got stuck in let's see, how can I say this? I started dating people that I worked with or were around a lot, and highly competitive, and the relationships all sort of ended the same way. And now I'm starting to make changes in the way I look at relationships and who I connect with, and that's helped me a little bit. But yeah, I think when I was younger, all the women I dated sort of fit into a box. They all sort of were the same
creepy.
group. It was a big box. It was a big refrigerator box.
So that's your secret. That's what's in the basement. No, I hear you. Okay.
How about you? Were both of your husbands the same?
I didn't think so at the time, but looking back, they were similar in many ways. Yeah,
they both ended in a divorce within 2 years.
There you go. They didn't look the same at all, but I think the relationships were similar. I was the same. I had the same lessons to learn, I think, each time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I continued dating similar people for many years. They're different faces, different looks, different names, obviously, but essentially same kind of issues would come up. And then I met you, and then that kind of changed everything. Yeah, you're different.
Yeah, see, you're different too.
See, if we had met 10 years ago, we would have been like, oh, no, walk away, run away. And we would have listened to each other talk and eye roll. you know?
I still do that now. But.
Yeah, you do. I think those things are going to get stuck in the back of your head sometimes. But yeah, isn't that interesting how, we think they're different when we go out with somebody new and we're like, it's going to be different this time. And it ends up being kind of the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, because we're dating the same personality type every time and just in a different package. But now I think both of us have changed and we're exploring this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what you just said is, I think, really important is we've both changed. And therefore, now we're making different choices going forward, which leads me into the perfect segue for our guest this week, because he's all about relationship magic.
There's magic?
There is magic.
I thought the magic died a long time ago.
With us? No. Very funny, smarty pants. No, our guest this week had a wonderful conversation with him. We could talk for hours, but he has so much insight, and he comes from, like, what he shares with us it makes so much sense, right? And it's like, gosh, what a simple concept. Yet why don't we see this? Why don't we see this without being told this, right? It seems so simple, but why aren't we applying this in our everyday life? So I'm really excited about our guest today. And I may as well tell you who that is. Our guest today is Guy Finley. Guy is the best-selling author of more than 45 books and audio albums on self-realization, including The Secret of Letting Go, The Essential Laws of Fearless Living, and his brand new book, Relationship Magic, Waking Up Together. He is the founder and director of Life of Learning Foundation, a nonprofit center for spiritual discovery located in Southern Oregon, where he gives talks 3 times each week. Guy is a faculty member at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, 1440 Multiversity, and is a regular expert contributor to the BeliefNet and Huffington Post. For more information about his new book, visit www.relationshipmagicbook.com. And we'll also put all of his information and contact information for the book in the show notes and on our website, on our homepage. So highly recommend checking it out. This conversation I had with him just barely scratches the surface on so much that he has to offer. So without further ado, Mr. Guy Finley. Guy, welcome to Life, Lafter Divorce Podcast.
Thanks, Leanne. I'm glad to be with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I am really excited because, well, for various reasons, you've written numerous books and you have your newest book coming out. And I've been reading the sneak preview and it just so happened. Well, before we get into it, I have so many questions for you on that, but you're married, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're married.
I've been with my wife, Patricia, just going on 40 years now.
Wow. That's a long time. Congratulations.
She has helped me in ways that I can't even describe. And so I have an undying gratitude for her companionship and what she's put up with. And what I've learned as a result. So, we have a very strong relationship. I can honestly say, as unbelievable as it may sound, that we have never raised our voices at each other in all 38 or 39 years. Not once.
Really?
Yeah.
That is remarkable. That's
I tell you why I say it. It's possible for us as men and women to understand ourselves so thoroughly and want to have a relationship, not just with our significant other, but with the love that brings us together so strongly that we can begin to understand that all of the venom or the pain or the anger that we might feel towards our partner can be used in a completely different way once we understand why it appears, which is basically why I've written the new book. I know we're going to get into it, but So it's not like, to me, that's not special. To me, that's how human beings should be with each other. To approach each other with a wish to understand our partner rather than the insistence they understand us. So that we're in a real moment where we're listening, and not just listening to what the other is saying, but really to what they're not saying and to what we are feeling as a result of that moment. And if we can be there clearly enough, we can begin to take a position inwardly where we realize first task here is to be present to myself, to whatever button has been pushed, and not try to push a button, but understand the mechanism behind it so that I can be free of that limitation and ultimately help free my wife or my partner or the person on the street, whatever that may be.
That's a big awareness, because typically when and I'm speaking from my own experience, when we're talking to people, it's probably more common that we're thinking of the point I'm trying to make versus the point they're trying to make. So applying that, what are they trying to tell me, and how can I get clarity on what their message is before I respond or react? And it kind of makes me think, when you said that, it makes me think of Stephen Covey's Seek First to Understand, the first habit of highly successful people.
I never read it, but that sounds wise to me.
Yeah, that's where it goes. I can't remember his other 7 habits, but I remember that one. So that's all. And I guess it takes practice with anything. Practice, things become easier. Is to first be aware and then practice that in all conversations. Is trying to seek someone else's understanding.
Well, of course, and that's true. But I don't know if you play any sports at all.
Not anymore, yeah.
I love golf. I don't get to do it much, but it pretty much saved my life because I'm still, out maybe 4 or 5 hours a week having good exercise playing golf. The reason I bring it up is because I watch people on the range practice imperfection. The same swing, no change, just hoping it'll be different. So while we must learn to practice learning to listen, we must also understand what the practice is for, not just to try to create what we hope will be a significant relationship, but so that we can begin to understand what it is in us that has no patience. Why am I so quick, as you said, to try to prove my point when you're trying to push yours down my throat? And the reason is because this great impatience appears in us that is the product of a pain that is not understood. We don't understand why we hurt when others say things to us. We only think the reason that we hurt the way we do is because of what they've said, instead of understanding that they couldn't possibly, shoot an arrow into the air. What does it hit? Throw a bucket of black paint into the air. What does it land on? So if there's a moment where my partner stings me, sure, should have they said that or done that? Possibly not. But if my first response is to send an arrow back, to somehow paint them the color that I feel they should be for having brought me in the conflict, we're dead in the very moment it's happened. An important point. Why? Because why did they shoot an arrow? Did they shoot an arrow because they're happy? Did they shoot an arrow because they're feeling good? Or was my partner in pain and did the only thing they knew to do with it, which was to fire the arrow, make the comment? So when you have two people, both of them in pain they don't recognize, all they can do is play the blame game, which is the pattern, and then nothing is ever healed, ever, because no one comes into an understanding that releases them from the limitation of blaming the other person.
Oh, that makes so much sense, especially in everyday relationships and people having various opinions on everything nowadays. So in a relationship, right?
That's a euphemism. Yeah. Let's soft pedal that one.
Yeah, let's stick to relationships.
But you know what?
It's true.
And I do want to stick to relationships, but you can't separate it out.
Right.
The insanity that we are seeing in the world today is because no one knows what to do with the power that's coursing through them as a result of a demand or an expectation, in this instance, on the government, on the social system, on our culture. And so when you've got everybody pointing fingers and firing arrows, what you have is a war where there will never be an understanding that we gain as individuals to allow us to first transcend this pain and then find the true purpose that will allow us to find peace, a real middle ground born out of self-understanding, not trying to make the other person understand why I'm right and they're wrong.
Yeah. Where do we start with something like that? You know, you mentioned people when we started this, you mentioned golfing, and you're watching people practice imperfection. And that's what we're seeing every day is people practicing the imperfection of their communication, right? How do we switch it so we're not practicing imperfection? How do we get that visual of what it is we're supposed to be practicing? And when I heard you say this, I think of Greg Louganis when he had that terrible dive that almost ruined his career, but didn't. And it's when I watch interviews and stuff with him, he never went back and watched that dive because he goes, I didn't want to know what I was doing wrong. I want to know what I'm doing right. And so he focused on all of the right moves that he could do to be better. Like a lot of athletes don't go back and watch what they did wrong. They listen to their coach on what parts we're doing right and what to do to make it better. How can we apply that? And is that what I'm hearing from you when you watch people practicing imperfection?
Well, not quite, because I don't know how we got on. I shouldn't have brought up golf.
Sorry.
Let's look at this and try to bring a bigger picture, because my new book is a much bigger picture about relationships, in which we can find the individualized polishing and perfection that relationships are intended to bring us into to understand love. But first, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Relationships, Leanne, to me, are the single most important, vital resource there is in the world today. There is no better condition to bring us into a consciousness that allows us to realize the truth about ourselves in the moment as we are. Now, how does that play? You're in Long Beach. I'm in Southern Oregon. I'm looking out at a fairly drizzly day. Fall is coming, but all the colors are there. And I'm looking at a gray tree squirrel trying to assault one of my bird feeders. You know, everything that I look at outside, if I'm truly attentive to it, brings up in me a certain feeling about nature. I see harmony, I see movement, I see color, I see balance, I see life. If I don't see that outside of me, I'm not aware that these qualities that I experience in that relationship already exist in me. Nature doesn't produce the feeling in me when I see a mountain or a cloud or the ocean vastness. That moment of relationship awakens in me something that I didn't know was there, but it was. So that's why I love nature. She awakens in me qualities, aspects of my own consciousness that are asleep until I'm in the presence, the relationship of nature. We get that, yes?
Yep.
Now, I meet you, and we look at each other's eyes over, Skype, and we get on. And I feel things about myself I don't ordinarily feel until I look at you. Our relationship produces an awareness of notes, sounds, feelings in me I'd never know. That's what makes humanity so interesting. We miss so much. I hate to go on this little tangent. I'll get back to what I want. You know, I don't know if you've ever gone to Florence or Europe or any of these places, and you walk around and people have earplugs in and they're looking at maps and books and supposedly taking in all of this history. And we're walking around 50,000 men and women. Each and every one of their faces is a study in history, a study in character, so that we would experience this endless array of revelation through what we realize when we see each other, but we don't have that relationship. So back to the point. So we love my wife, for instance, when she'd kill me if you knew I was saying this. When she says the words TJ Maxx, she gets this little quirky smile on her face, you know. It's probably like I am when I say the word pizza, you know.
Right.
Something happens, and when I see that smile, it lights me up. It lights me up. Now, is that light already in me? Yeah, but it's not there until my wife brings it out through whatever quirky, you know, characteristic. So she shows me things about myself that I don't know and see ordinarily, that when she does, I love her for what she teaches me about myself. Vice versa. She sees me not fawn in front of people. She tends to fawn. She wishes she had that, what she calls strength. So she feeds on that and falls in love with me because in her is waiting this strength that she knows is there. She just can't access yet, but she feels as being already a part of herself. Right? So we're onto something very nice. So we love each other for what each other shows us about ourselves that brings us into an awareness of strength, delicateness, balance, affection. You ready for the shoe to drop?
I'm ready for the other side.
Why then don't we feel that way toward our partner when they show us something that we don't want to see in ourselves? They didn't produce it. They are to me, they're the messenger of love. They are the herald of healing. Because without my wife to say the offhand comment, to make the semi-sarcastic remark, or whatever it may be, in my meeting, I have a foundation. I run a foundation. If there weren't stress in a business meeting, how would anyone know they walked into it with an image of themselves that no one should ever talk to them using a certain tone? So the atmosphere, the actions don't create the disturbance. They reveal there's something living in us waiting to be disturbed, which means we brought with us something from our past that was never healed in the moment it was first revealed as being needed to be released. So what life does, what love does through our relationships is bring us full circle and full circle and full circle. So that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And by the grace of love, by the divine, it never gives up. It will, and I know you know this, it keeps bringing back the same lessons, but we don't learn them because we keep looking at the person as being the source of the pain instead of that which is showing us we are not healed, we aren't whole. That's what we have to understand so that the shift takes place. And the shift is now, let me use this moment with you to thank you for what you have helped me see. Not just because we're on a walk and you say that wise or beautiful comment and it makes me feel good, but because we're on a walk and you bring up something from the past and it's innocent, but I'm carrying around some kind of guilt. And the next thing you know, we're in an argument because I assume you meant to hurt me. You didn't. And now I attacked back. And when I attack back, what do?
Right.
Bang. And the war is on. Started by something neither of us understand yet. That's what my book is about.
Yes. And it's our relation. I like it when you said our partner is a reflection, kind of like a mirror of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's
that's what look, let's another broad picture.
Mm-hmm.
How many times in your life, and I'm assuming, but you can tell me if I'm wrong, have lessons come around and Leanna's go, no, I don't think so, not yet. Something else is responsible. I should have been different. I could have been like that. I ought not be like this. And then no matter how much we incriminate ourselves or judge others, by the grace of love, the lesson keeps coming back. Why? Because it knows that inwardly we're divided, that there is something seated in us, not our fault, that until it is revealed as being concealed, it can't be healed. And until it's healed, I'm going to blame others for the pain of touching it.
So on that point, because that's such a good point, I hear so many people saying, well, my picker is broke and I just keep picking the wrong person. And there was a time where, right? Have you heard that? And then it was like, I just keep picking all the wrong people. And after I had gone through a period of time where I had done that, I thought, obviously, I'm not picking the wrong people. There's something I'm doing wrong in each relationship that I'm getting this pattern. And not necessarily wrong, but there's a lesson.
No, that's it. That's it.
Right?
Let me strengthen that 1,000 times.
Sure.
Nothing wrong, just not understood.
Yes.
End of story.
Mm-hmm.
So that the moment, if I understand it, is the teacher. And the teacher uses everyone and everything so that I can find out where I walked into that moment, that relationship, preloaded with something that was going to be a limitation. So instead of thanking, which is a way down the road, Christ said, love thine enemies. How many people really get that?
Not many.
Nobody, until we start to understand. My enemy is not my enemy. My enemy is what I perceive as being someone causing me to realize a limitation in my understanding. Love never hates. Love never blames. Love never attacks. If we have half a mind, we understand that. But if you were like me growing up, come in and catch holy hell from mom or dad because we were late. I'm only doing this to you because I love you. And that's what we grow up hearing. That somehow anger, cruelty, punishment is the proof that we love. No, anger, cruelty, punishment takes place because love is absent in the moment. And once we understand that, even a little bit, then those moments where this nature, just as you said, comes up and begins to react mechanically, which it has to, now I have a new set of eyes, an actual section in the book, where I can begin to see, you know what? I'm on fire, and love is fire, but not the kind that burns people.
Right.
Love unites, love melts and brings together, not love burns the feet of anybody who stepped on my toe. So that new understanding, which belongs to, I hope I can do this. That new understanding is very much like the moment where we understand that we have a strength in us that we don't know until we see the mountain. Mm-hmm. We don't know that we have this deep, timeless order of our own being. I look up at a night sky and there's a constellation. I go, oh my God, that is so deep and beautiful. Well, the sky is just showing me what's deep and beautiful that the divine God has put in me. So that it's working like a mirror. Everything works like a mirror. And that's the secret of real successful relationships, is starting to understand that do you ever get mad when you look in the mirror at yourself for the way you look? I know we do, actually.
Yeah.
Holy cow, what happened? But that's insane. I am what I'm looking at. There's no me different, there's no me different than the me I'm looking at. There is in my mind. I'm back in high school.
Me too.
6 packs of abs, not this face that's been run over by a car, right? So, and that's why we tend more and more just to look at headshots.
Right. Yes. So funny. So I know in your book, you also talk about when the student is ready, the relationships appear. But I like that you add to teach, because sometimes people are like, things always come when you're not looking, and relationships come when they're supposed to. But what we don't always add to that is they appear to teach.
Absolutely. Look, you said your friend said they had the wrong picker, which I've never heard, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that's hysterical. Look, how shall I say this? How am I and why am I attracted to the person that I am? Now, in my instance, I've been same gal for the longest time. I was drawn to her because we had an equal interest in an interior life. We both wanted love to be the first and foremost thing, however we would, paint that idea of love. But lots of people go looking for relationships to escape loneliness, to escape emptiness, basically to escape themselves. Now, if I go looking for someone to escape myself, and the self that's looking to escape itself finds someone, the odds are the one it's going to find is someone also looking to escape him or herself. So what happens when you have two people finding each other in order to escape themselves? If you don't mind, I'll say, there's great sex for about a week.
Yeah.
And then the picking starts.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a deep dissatisfaction, not with the other person, but with something in me that doesn't understand what this loneliness is about. What is this heartache? What is this sense of disappointment? Because, look, to be a human being, we should all have sweatshirts that say two things. First, warning, content under pressure. And the other is, beware, disappointment lives here. We have all...
Yeah.
Look, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Why? Because we go looking to each other to do for ourselves what must begin with ourself. And until it does, I have the wrong picker, because the wrong picker winds up picking on everything that no longer serves what it thought it would find in the person to remediate this pain in us. So that's my pick on the picker.
I like it. And it makes perfect sense, because we attract what we are, right?
Exactly. But even significantly, we also bring into our lives, which is critical. Look, I know you're in a relationship. Everybody's been in one. Even if we're not in one right now, you can still put this together in your mind. Here I am, and let's say it's the early stage, and I don't know what that would be, 2 months, 6 months in. Some of the veneer is beginning to wear off a little bit, however that works. Remember when you'd be on the phone for like 4 hours late into the night? There wasn't anything that wasn't interesting.
It's so true.
And, because that's the bloom.
Yeah.
But by the grace of God, some men and women, myself, it grows into a tree and bears fruit. But sometimes it's just a bloom on a rose, and then the petals, they start to fall off. And in those moments, if it's going to turn into a seed to produce a tree, to produce fruit, we have to understand that love has two sides to it. The first side is the attraction. And when we're drawn to somebody, it's a phenomena, if we've been through it, I know I have, where, you know what, I'm still crazy attracted to you, but you are driving me nuts. You know, the thing I used to thought was so cute, how you would take food off my plate because you were hungry. I'm ready to stab you with my fork now because you're not supposed to do that without asking, right? So what's happened? Now we're in a relationship where it is possible that love holds us together so that it can polish the parts of us that want to push us apart. Love wants to polish what we don't know about ourselves. So it holds us in a crucible. You know, a crucible, that little mortar and pestle thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't think we're in a crucible when we fall in love, but eventually our partner, in quotes, can grind on us. And what I'm saying is that if we will stay in the relationship, I'm not talking about abuse.
Right.
If we will stay in that relationship, we'll discover enough times that, you know what, I always thought that you were responsible for my impatience because I found you being irrational, too opinionated, demanding. Why do you want my time? So my impatience always pointed a finger at you as the problem. Well, one day, maybe it dawns on me, I'm impatient about everything, not just these quirky things. So the problem, the limitation in our love isn't what you do, but me not seeing my own reaction as the limitation. Now we have a chance. Because when I don't react negatively, I don't push you into a corner. And if I don't push you in a corner, you don't push back. And I'm left with my own impatience. I'm left with no one to blame for this fire that consumed me in that moment. This is such a beautiful thing because instead of a negative loop, a painful pattern where one blames the other pushes back, and space gets limited and limited and limited until there's no space left at all between us, just a fire. Instead, we begin to allow space. I don't know if you've ever tried to, I love bonsai trees. I've been doing it since I was 17 years old. You leave a juniper, a rose, a nandina, you leave some plant in a pot too long, what happens to it?
It outgrows it.
And it
dies.
Root bound.
Right.
It will not thrive.
Right.
Our relationships are root bound. And they're root bound because we don't understand love gives us an expansive pot to put ourselves into. Sorry, the word's not that romantic. I get it. But that's the fact. So let's look at the example. She says something and I start to feel impatient toward her. But I've been seeing my impatience not as a solution to making her be the one I want her to be, but actually making her more of what I don't want her to be. You see it?
Yeah, right.
So when I make her more of what I don't want to be, meaning I get negative, she gets negative, is the pot enlarging or shrinking?
It's shrinking. Yeah.
Less room for each of us to be able to see ourselves as we are, because all we see is the source of our pain. So learning to give our partner space is actually how we help them change. Everybody listening, you know, as sure as I'm saying it, you can't fix the one you love.
Nope.
End story.
So true. And it's funny because when we talk to people, it's like, well, they do this and they do that and they do this and this drives me nuts. But it takes a while to really step back and go, but I do this and I do that. And because the only person we can change is ourselves.
Grasshopper.
Yes.
Now we all get that. Now can we get to work and let love teach us how to change ourselves? More accurately, will we let love change us so that we can have a more loving relationship with our partner and everyone else? Because love reveals what is concealed. Once it's revealed, it's easy to release because we won't agree to go along with those parts of ourselves anymore. And we let go. We let go not because we're strong, wise, courageous. We let go because who holds on to a burning ember? Nobody.
Right. And so let's say we recognize these things in ourselves that we want to change. And, because I have been married and divorced twice in my many years ago in my 20s. And what I realize is some of the behaviors and the way I react to things instead of respond to things, or different things that I do, I realize I don't want those to be a part of me anymore, and I want to let them go. But what do I replace them with?
Yeah.
That's the trick. I'm like, where are those tools in my toolbox, and where do I get those behaviors?
Do you remember how we said that when we look at something beautiful, it teaches us something about ourselves that we can't know otherwise, and in some way instills a kind of faith that within me, even though I can't tap into it, there's something timeless. Personally, I've had moments where I actually write a whole chapter on it, where I've been in as much physical pain and psychological pain as a person can be in, literally laying in a hospital bed, and then in a recovery room, and then looking over and seeing someone, as hard as it is to believe, who was worse off than I was. And in the moment that I saw her pain, my pain didn't matter. See, that's magic. Now, I don't have a tool for that.
Nope.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
I don't have that tool.
Right.
But I'm given that. It's in me. That's what love does. That's what love is. Mm-hmm. So now you say, well, what do I replace it with? I replace it with a willingness to let love teach me what it wants to teach me in this moment. I let it show me what it wants to show me. Now, the rub is, and you said it, I'm all on board with being shown all of this stuff when I'm not actually having to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
But when the moment comes, it's like, who said that? I don't do the good I want to do. Instead, I do the evil I don't want to do.
Right.
That's part of love's lesson. It's trying to show you that right now, this level of consciousness is not aligned yet sufficiently enough to let love be the actor, to let love be the healer, to let love reveal what it intends to, so that in my awareness of what love is showing me, a new tool appears on the spot. And the tool is, you know what, Guy? If you have to put here's a new tool. I don't know if anybody's going to like it. When you start to react, get out the duct tape and put it over your mouth.
Yes.
Don't say the cruel thing. Don't think to yourself, what's the kind thing to say here? That's nonsense. Don't think to yourself, what would Jesus do here? That's ridiculous. See what that light, what Christ, whatever, see what it's showing you. Right. And then understand, if I respond with the wish to make the other person feel the pain that I'm in, then I am not doing what love wants me to do, which is to see this pain is a hitchhiker. It has been brought forward through time from innumerable experiences where I didn't see the lesson and I refused to bear myself. Now I will. And then you make that intention. And if you fail, you still practiced what's positive.
Yes.
You still get the result of a deeper revelation that, you know what? There's a lot more work to be done in here. I thought this diamond was just about nearly, pitch perfect. Lo and behold, it's got a few rough edges, to be polite. So I'm going to let the light of that awareness start to solve, soothe, heal, and reveal what waits. And what waits is a more and more perfect reflection. Then my partner, if she's mad at me because she went to TJ Maxx and the thing she went back to get, she never buys on the spot. This is something she practices. She always waits to see if she has to have something like that, which I appreciate personally.
Yeah.
I don't buy much at all. It doesn't do anything for me.
Right.
So when she goes back, if it's not there, she might have a temptation to get mad at what she would call me. But the fact of the matter is she gets to see that actually she got something better than what she was going to buy. She got self-understanding. She didn't know that she carried this attachment with her for that 10 days. The expectation that actually produces the pain of not getting what she thought would make her feel better. So she's released from a misunderstanding. That's love.
Right. Right. So this is super helpful. And I love that everybody can now put some duct tape in their toolbox. If you don't have duct tape, use a binder clip. It works about the same. And I'm wondering, go ahead.
In some respects, I'm speaking only, metaphorically.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, no one wins a fight.
Right.
I don't care if you come out on top. The seed that caused the conflict remains buried in our consciousness. The task is not to win the fight. The task is to bring new light onto that seed. Then, no matter how poorly I may manage in not getting negative, that seed has been exposed just a little bit to a new awareness. And by the way, this is quantum physics. Anything that we observe is changed by the observation. Anything we observe is changed by the moment of that observation. So if I actually begin to understand what I must first observe is the limitation, the reaction, that moment of light, which is what self-observation is, changes ever so slightly what before was using my mouth and dragging me into that fight. So I agree. You know what? And you have to, it's an endless, the original title of this book was Relationship Magic, The Endless Journey of Love, not Relationship Magic, Waking Up Together. It just turned out that was a little more provocative, I guess. My publisher liked it better, but it's also true. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I wake up with my wife, or she wakes me up when she comes down to my office,
Right.
Either way. But the endless journey of love is what we're all on, and we're all in training. There's no master here. We're all learning about where it is that we have mistaken love for being a demand, an insistence, an opinion. God help us, a belief. The more we replace mistaken ideas with true understanding, the more compassionate, kind, and self-sacrificing we are. And that's what love is about.
Yes. Yes. And I'm also interested. So we've talked about like putting some of this awareness as one of the mechanisms to plant this seed, right?
Yes.
And then you also talk about canceling 3 painful patterns before you even get started. What are these? I'm really curious. What are these 3 painful patterns?
Look, we all know to some extent that it takes 2 to tango. I mean, that my mother knew that.
Right.
But they still tangoed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing to bring the dark dance to an end is to realize, what happens if I don't walk out onto the dance floor here? Most of us have never done that. Maybe we don't dance for fear of our partner, but you're still dancing. Maybe we dance because we don't want our partner to give us the cold shoulder or refuse sex or find something that we know they're going to come at us with later. That's still dancing. Not stepping onto the dance floor is using the moment where we hear the where we hear the music, where we hear the music. And there's a section in the book that's tied to that, Leanne, called the ABCs of relationship magic. And we know the ABCs in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ABCs of relationship magic are to understand that anger seeds anger. That's the A. Blame drives blame. Coercion, i.e., trying to change somebody by force, cements them in the very quality I don't want in them. So as we grow in understanding where we have, without knowing it, been complicit in these patterns, then we can begin to be aware of that level of consciousness that thinks it's going to end the pattern by throwing gasoline onto the fire. And we don't do it because we understand the first thing that has to happen is the fire has to go out in me. I can't put it out. Love can. How? By showing me, you know what? A little saying of mine. Before you serve someone the dish of whatever you're going to dish them with, taste it yourself.
Ooh, that's good.
Because if you can taste it yourself before you give it to your partner to chew on, you're not going to do it. Love won't let you. There's a phenomena, Leanne. When we're in a fight, we think our pain is more important than our partner's. When you're fighting with somebody, do you ever think to yourself, you know what, they're in a lot of pain right now? When was the last time?
Yeah.
I mean, really, here we are, we're getting ready to go. And when was the last time a thought said to you, look how much pain they're in. I can really feel their pain. If I really feel their pain, which only love will let me do, am I going to add to it?
No. Yeah.
God bless us. It's impossible.
Right.
I can't add to another person's misery if I can feel it in myself. And how do I know what their pain is? Because we're in it together. Not your pain, not my pain, our pain. And that pain, when it is seen and understood, is the beginning of the healing of the pain in me that produces the pain in you, the beginning of a new consciousness. And this, incidentally, is how the world heals.
And that's a huge awareness that we all need to see. I mean, because it's way too easy to shoot those arrows and to throw those words around and think that it's not going to come back at us. It comes from us. So there can't be a more important, look, I'm not patting Guy on the back. I just know there can't be a more important conversation than this. I agree.
I just know from 40 years of writing and teaching that once I actually begin to have the new self-understanding, then I begin to see really the responsibility is mine. It's not just some aphorism. It's not just some positive thing I say when everything's going well. This is where the rubber meets the road. And then I can begin to see where it is that I have mistaken. Look, when we're angry, we think we're strong. When we're angry, we're weak. Because anger is choosing for us how to make things fixed and right. Anger doesn't know how to heal things. Anger knows how to break things. So what do I do with that? Well, I know it's not going to heal. I know it's not going to change. What am I left with? Oh my God. I'm left with something in myself I've never understood. Now listen, has only been a power in my life because without knowing it, I've made it a God in the moment when it appears by doing what it tells me to do. It's a false guide. Negative states are false guides, false gods. But we've acquiesced because when they appear, they bring with us the thunder and they bring with them, the thunder and lightning and all the stuff. They go, oh, no. I have to get away from you. I wouldn't be with you if that person wasn't like that. Then you start to understand the real altar. Sorry, but that's what comes to my mind. The real sacrifice, the real moment of truth is now. It's here. It's in me. And I'm going to do the best I can to see what I must about myself, and I will fail. I want people to understand it. But I will not judge myself for failing, because anything that wants to judge me for trying to do what love has instructed me to do is not love. It's the very nature itself trying to trick me back into identifying with it and agreeing with it again to go after what it tells me to go after. We are in training. There is, repeat after me, people, if you are, who are listening, there is no such thing as a bad fact about yourself. End of story. Every revelation is the revelation of a fact. Embrace the fact that was shown to you, you will be released from by the light that revealed it. That's magic. That's the tool that appears only in the moment of the relationship. I can't bring a toolbox with me. That's what we do. That's what all this nonsense is about. And then when something happens, we find ourselves, throwing tools left and right, looking for the correct way to respond. I don't need to know the correct way to respond. I need to be in the right place where the response will be given to me by love for the real reason I'm in the moment.
I like it. And the duct tape is there to give us some opportunity to get that feeling across.
Yes, a split second.
Yep.
Yep. Can I pause? We've heard that idea. Can I pause for 3 seconds or count to 10 before I respond? Why? Not so I can think of a clever response. Not so I can pass myself off as being self-possessed, but rather so I can see something's trying to possess me and I'm not going to let it do it so that I don't blame you. Right. Then we have real fulcrum, place where something can truly shift and change.
Yeah. No, this is great. We just had a guest recently on who said, when we act out in anger, we usually do something that we regret.
Always.
Yes.
Always. Eventually. I know. Look, I was angry. I stood up and I showed them and they backed down and by God, I've done it. No, you've just cooked your own goose because you've increased an enabling relationship. We are unknowingly, unconsciously codependent with negative reactions because of the power they seem to lend to us. We don't need power. We need to awaken to the mistaken idea that we're powerless in the moment. That's what we have to do. Wake up from the dream, not find a tool in the dream that's going to keep the dreamer alive and set up for the next set of circumstances where they're going to be in conflict again.
Yeah. I like that. And I like the fact that I don't have to walk around with a toolbox. I like that it comes from a place. It comes from a place that I don't know what it is with me. Maybe I work construction too many years, but I do like the fact that there's this. What I'm hearing so much is it's trust. We just have to trust ourselves that we're going to find those right words. We're going to find the right actions. If we just step back and instead of reacting, we wait and respond. in turn.
If when you say we learn to trust ourselves, you mean I learn to trust the principle that has brought me into this particular moment for the sake of the education. Because then it isn't that I'm trusting myself that I, in quotes, am going to find the answer. I'm trusting that if I'm properly present, I won't be the same order of human being who came into that moment. I'm going to exit with a new understanding of myself. And since that's true, I will exit the moment in a new relationship with you, because I'm no longer who I was. Now you have room to be someone new as well.
Right. That takes a lot of pressure off.
I can only sit here and have a lovely conversation with you, but I can only tell you that as an individual enters more and more into this new level of self-knowledge, the Old Testament called it metanoia, a new mind, a new way to perceive the pain instead of the old self perceiving what it needs to see to continue itself. In these moments, we're changed. And the more you actually start to understand, you know what? That was magic. That was actually magic. I didn't return unkindness for unkindness because I saw I didn't want to give you that to eat because I didn't like the taste of it. Then you didn't respond to me. And we actually wound up having a conversation because there was space for it. That's magic. But I don't have magic in my toolbox. I understand that love is magic relative to our level of being, and that I can align myself with it. And then the tools stream into the moment, and I am given what to do, to be, to say in that moment. Then I don't carry anything with me, Leanne.
Yes.
I got nothing. Nothing.
It makes it so much easier.
Oh my God. No need to appear, no need to protect, no need to prove. Instead, I'm in a ceaseless self-discovery mode. And then that's what becomes the real ground of relationship magic, of changing ourselves and our partner with us at the same time.
That's a lot to think about. And I like it because it's just to go back to the beginning about that whole letting go, being in the moment, and letting it happen.
Being willing to see the truth of myself. Can I bear it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I bear to see that? An example, when I was, 17 or 18 years old, I fell head over heels in love. And if the first love is the toughest, why? Because you never knew those feelings. I mean, you didn't know them. You didn't know that someone could occupy your mind and heart like that, strong for that long. And then the inevitable, at least in this instance, betrayed, hurt, crushed. Love is dead. I'll never love again. And unbeknownst to yourself, the fear of that pain goes into every relationship you have. So that without knowing it, you actually think that love is something to be afraid of. It's not conscious to us. I just don't want any more pain. So now pain, I see life through the eyes of it. Look, I can't trust you completely. I say I want to. I'm going to give it all I can. But when I see you look, I saw you look. I didn't know you weren't looking at him. Yeah, you were looking at the sweater in the window behind him,
Mm-hmm.
But my mind sees you looking. I hear a tone. I don't hear the tone. The pain hears the tone. And it connects it through association with the heartache. And the next thing I know, I'm in the hands of that nature that's terrified it's going to get hurt again. And so I live that nature's life without knowing it, because when the nature appears, I agree with its perception because I don't know any better. That's what we can do. We can bring light, it's already in there, into that darkness. The darkness doesn't understand the light. The light understands the darkness. And as it does, I'm shown, you know what? It isn't you that I shouldn't trust. It's my perception of you as responsible for my pain that I shouldn't trust. Then a beautiful kind of self-doubt starts to sow itself. Not doubt about my partner, doubt about my reaction toward my partner. Then we have a chance, Leanne. Something new can happen.
Right. And that same thing can be applied. So hearing it from your first love, for the listeners who maybe have gone through a divorce and they're wondering, will I ever find love again?
Yes.
They can take and they can do the same thing and let the light take over the dark.
Exactly. Look, love is not meant to die in us because love was here before we were. So if love is dying, it isn't because love is dying. It's because I've lost my relationship with it, because something in me is telling me what love is and what love has done. We have to get past the point of listening to something in us that believes love is scary. How can it be scary? It'd be like, I look out and here's this young buck, a new baby deer on my property. Mm-hmm. Imagine looking out and oh no, a buck, a new buck. That'd be crazy, right?
Right.
Because I'd lose the chance to feel the tenderness, to see its nascent strength, to admire its tenacity. All of those parts of myself shut off because something in me had a bad experience with a young buck. Now let's change the young buck to a young man or a young doe, a young woman. All of it gone. Not because the creature is responsible, but a consciousness that didn't understand the initial purpose of the relationship has stepped in, and now it's stepping on my heart, crushing the possibility of having something new and perfected that's as intended to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love this conversation. You've given us so much to think about. And, I'm so thankful that you shared, the preview of your book so that I could take a look at it. There's a lot of fascinating thoughts in there, just that really changed my perspective on how I view things, right? And just enough. It's like, oh, that makes sense, but I never really thought about it in this way.
Yes. 1,000 times yes. The tiny shift in our perception of what love is and what it can do will now be like you having tasted a glass of wine that will make every other wine you ever taste susceptible to questioning.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. Because look, here's a beautiful, I know we're running out of time.
Oh, no, it's okay.
You and I will never experience anything in our consciousness that wasn't there prior to the moment of its experience. It's already in there. So is love. So when I can begin to see what love isn't, it's not because it's denying love. It's beginning to be able to see through the eyes of love what I had mistaken as being love. Now I have a chance to see these moments where my old, in quotes, love would have acted out. Now it's not acting out anymore. It's just for a moment suspended, if that's the best I can do, because I have a new way of perceiving this moment. And that's the shift. And it grows because the love that's allowing you to see it lives full blown. It's just waiting for you. You're not waiting for love. It's waiting for you. That's the beauty of it.
Right. And as I'm thinking about this, if you have another second, my thought is like, as people step out of these relationships, so oftentimes when I talk to friends or guests that have gone through something like this, and they say, oh, I want to get into this new relationship. But when you ask them to describe what it is that they're looking for, a lot of people get hung up on someone very surface and very on the surface things, but they don't really get down into like their core beliefs and what's really true. Or you get the answer of, well, I don't know.
Yeah. Because go ahead.
Can you tell us like the importance of kind of getting clear and the place that we're at when that new relationship comes in, where we really want to be?
The first thing, I think, is that we are not going to escape the parts of us that are naturally drawn to what they're drawn to. This is something else we almost never think about. It's the opening chapter in the book. Look, I think I'm drawn to you. But the fact is that something in me is drawn to you, just like something in you is drawn to me. Well, I'm not drawing you to me. You're not drawing me to you. Love is drawing us to each other so that we can discover ourselves through one another. And, by the way, the timeless nature of love that brings all of us together. To that point, I was brokenhearted by what I was brokenhearted about. He cut me to the core. He was so angry. So now I'm looking for someone with a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which means the seed of the fear of someone's anger has merely turned into looking for someone who's funny. So without knowing it, I have an expectation so that my fear is producing some of these expectations. Now, I don't know if you can make this big step with me. Fear is looking for something to be afraid of, not something to escape itself through. So we actually, through resistance, attract to us the very thing we don't want. It's another whole story, another whole chapter. But to understand, I go into relationship with expectations. I can't escape them, but neither do I have to be punished by them. So that when you don't turn out to be what I expect you to be, and by the way, why do I expect you to be what I do? Because that's my hope, that you will reveal in me what I want revealed. You will give me what I want you to give me. And woe be it unto you when you stop giving it to me. So that then I can start to understand when I feel like I'm being cut off or you're not giving me any more what I want. The problem isn't you. The problem is my identity was wrapped up in what I thought you were supposed to do for me. We can change all that. And yes, there'll be expectations, but now when they're dashed, when the person, have you ever fished for a compliment? He says with a twinkle in his eye. Now, what happens when I fish for a compliment or I fish for someone to agree with my opinion, but I'm very covert about it, and they don't do it? Or worse, they talk about themselves, not me. What happens to me? I get upset.
Yeah.
And then I want to blame you for not biting on the hook that I dangled.
Happens all the time.
Yes. So the problem is not what you've done. The problem is I'm ceaselessly looking for some way to confirm myself through another person. My partner isn't here to confirm my reality, my being. They're here to help me discover it. But when we pass it off, that responsibility, we have to find fault because no one is going to perfectly prove to me that I am what I imagine myself to be. That's a recipe for disaster.
Right. So true. So true. And we hear that about so many relationships, right?
Yeah. And yet nothing changes.
No.
Now it can.
Yes.
Now it can. Now it can. This is like sort of a handbook for the unconscious heart, a way in which we can begin to use these moments for the purpose they have been given to us. That moment is not there to take something from it. Another whole chapter in the book. Love appears at the door as a beggar. It's in every ancient myth, every true story of the hero or the heroine. Love appears as a beggar at the door. Do I let it in, thinking I have nothing to give? Do I let it in, saying, no, I don't want you in the door because you remind me of my poverty? No, I understand its appearance. And when I let it in, if you will, love, the God, gives me something I can't give myself, but only after I've given it access into me.
I like that. That makes it such a clear picture in my mind. So this has been phenomenal. I'm very excited that your book is here today, the day that we're launching this episode. And I hope that when people are out doing their online shopping and taking a look, that they get it, because there is such insight. There is such valuable knowledge that you share on how to step forward, and even you talk about the relationship within yourself, and it starts with us, everything that we do, and I love it. So thank you so much for coming forward and spending this time with me to give me the insight into your book, because there are so many good gems in there.
I myself am so glad that we got to spend this time together this way, because when we share what's true and we're not fighting with it because it contradicts some image or appearance of ourselves, then something really altogether different happens. And then we feel it, we taste it, and then we want have another taste of that and a little more of that feeling. And that's how faith grows, that love actually exists as a guide, as a way to change ourselves. And more importantly, everything that we do in this life, we're not going to escape relationship. We might as well use it as the tool of self-realization that it is.
Absolutely. Such great stuff. And I'm going to go back and take some more notes and actually do some more reading on this, because there's, like I said, you gave me, there was that shift as I was reading it. And I think it's so valuable in just everyday conversations in our world today, in every relationship, whether intimate or otherwise, that we build. There's something that we can really benefit from.
I would urge you to do it. And I will go a little further. If sometime after the first of the year, you've read through it and you want to talk a little more about it, I don't often do this, but we can have another go round at this and dig a little bit more and see what we can learn, because we'll be different. If we've done this very thing we're talking about, we won't even be the same person
I
anymore.
love it. Let's do it. It's a date. We're going to do it. So we're going to be back after the holidays, and we will be talking more about all of this magic. So
Yeah. So I trust people know that today is the official day. Do we need to give a URL or do anything?
Yeah, actually, the URL and all of your contact information that you've shared with me, I'm going to be putting in the show notes. So wherever anybody finds any of this on iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, Player FM, Google Play Music, wherever you found us on my website, all the resources and links so that you can grab a copy of Guy's book will be there for you.
And get a free audio book on the spot when you order the book. I read the book. First book of mine out of 40 or 50 that I've ever read. So you get an audio book download on the spot when you buy the book, plus a webinar that I'm going to give on the 28th of October, followed by a live question and answer streamed the first part of November, and another gift, some other MP3 or something, but a couple of really good gifts that will help us to stay in touch and working together. That's what we have to do. We're here for each other.
Awesome. So there are great bonuses. So if you get the book, you get the audio book, you get access to a webinar,
the free streamed webinar and the Q&A that follows it, and a download of I think it's a 60-minute MP3, maybe it's an MP4, something about 7 higher ways that we can learn to love and trust each other. A very nice supplemental piece of material.
Wonderful. So this is something that we're definitely going to make sure everybody can find those links easily and always on my website, on the show notes, and on social media. I'll be posting them as well. So great stuff. And I'm going to be talking to you in January.
I look forward to it.
All right.